Hey, Gator Nation. Welcome back to the Respect Our Decision podcast. Guys, another busy week for Gator Nation, man, and a busy week for the Respect Our Decision podcast, man. As you can see, your boy Hirsch is here, and the hype man Wes is here.
Yeah, I'm here, man. I got my internet right. It's not. It wasn't
he
the
got his
internet last
internet.
time. This
He
time,
got his
yeah.
internet geared up for all you haters out there on Wes's internet. But
Yeah.
we want to
Okay.
give a big shout out to our man CJ the Man McCann. His wife gave birth to a baby girl. She was a few weeks early, so they're still at the hospital taking care of business, but she's healthy. Mama's healthy. So big shout out to CJ, man, and his wife, and for the
Congratulations.
birth of their baby daughter, man. Their thoughts, they're in our thoughts, they're in our prayers, man.
Yes, sir.
Big come up in the world for a young family to have their first child. So that being said, guys, we're gonna talk about a lot of stuff this week, man. We got a lot coming up, guys. I want to talk to you about that for a second. But before I do, make sure you go out there, download us wherever you get your favorite podcasts from, man. Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're out there. Wherever you get it from, we're there. Make sure you download us each and every week. And if you're checking us out on YouTube, guys, this is your first time stumbling across our little show, man, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, man. Drop a like on the video and just leave a comment down below, man. Go ahead and leave a comment on what your thoughts are on the additions that the Gators made to the team this week, man. Once again, sometimes it actually does pay to finish second. Not something that you want to continuously do, but hey, it worked out in our favor this time. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I wanted to announce a few things, guys, before we jump into that. Coming right here about Friday, we're going to have an interview with Nate Barbera, the CEO of Florida Victorious. I'm going to be interviewing him tomorrow, and we're going to have that video up by Friday, guys. So check that out. We're going to ask Nate some questions, man, and ask him about what's going on with Florida Victorious. Obviously, not quite a year yet since it was announced, but we're getting there. We're getting right up on that. And as you might have noticed on social media, man, Florida Victorious is putting all those announcements up with the athletes that they've re-upped with, and looking for another prosperous year with Florida Victorious. But we're going to get the word out, man, because a little short. Last time I heard of 24,000 subscribers to Florida Victorious, man. And to put that in terms of Ole Miss is somewhere around 6,000 contributors to their collective. They are by far from people that know the biggest in the country. So we got a long ways to go, man. And I understand right now a lot of people got a lot of questions about why they should give their money to Florida Victorious. And I get that. I really do. I get it, man. I mean, if you're going to give your money, you want to know where it's going. So be sure to tune into that, man. I'm going to ask that man some questions and see what he's got to say about what's going on with Florida Victorious. And even bigger, next week, man, our first player interview since Justin Shorter last year, man. This is a big deal for us. Kind of get a little come up in the world. A guy that the hype man has been asking for since day one. Florida Gators own Justice Boone, man. We're going to get Justice on here. Ask how the recovery's going, how he feels like next year he's going to fit into the Gators defense. Ask him all those kind of questions that y'all would probably ask him. If you have a question maybe you'd like us to ask Justice, though, man, leave that in the comments below, and we'll write them out, man, and ask him the questions. Obviously, we already got a whole lot of questions we're going to answer him, so if it's one that we're going to ask, we'll probably weed that out. But if you've got a question for Justice you want to ask, man, drop it in the comments below. We'll be sure to ask him, and listen in next week. We'll have that interview up. It should be good times, man. Coming up in the world. Lots of stuff happening. Got to get these interviews out, man. We want to talk to the people, man. We want to know what's going on behind the curtain of Gator Nation right now. And I tell you what's going on this week is more additions to the 2024 class. Well, technically only one addition to the class. One's a transfer because dumb rules. But we're going to start off with what kicked off first. DeAndre Robinson, we talked about him last week, man, that he had been let out of his LOI with Texas. we said, hey, look, it looks like the Gators are in the prime spot to land him. Man, that joker not only committed, but already moved in. He's on campus. He's ready to go. He was posting videos the day he committed on campus, had his little flip-flops with the Gators on them and everything like that. Once again, man, that's just a big, big addition to the defensive line room. 6'4", 315 pounds, out of Orlando, local boy. So that's great. Another Florida kid. You want to keep these Florida kids home. Does it suck that you had that his defensive line coach at Texas had to move to LSU to get him? I mean, you can say it did, absolutely, but at the end of the day, he's on the roster. You recruited the kid. You did your best, man. You did your best. You kept on him, and it paid off in the long run, and sometimes that's what matters. We talked about that before with Pup Howard when he transferred last month, and we picked him up, man. You just got to keep recruiting these kids, keep in their ear, don't burn your bridges, and this is what happens. And then we saw it again this week at the beginning of the week. We add Jameer Grimsley to the team. Now, I'm very excited about the addition of Jameer Grimsley. Of course, Jameer Grimsley committed to Bama. And he said that, ironically enough, it was because of stability and he wanted, to win some ball games. And Florida didn't quite show him enough. And then, of course, Corey Raymond was let go, and you know how all that played out. Jameer Grimsley, 6'3" corner, 185 pounds right now, very athletic. At one point, Florida was recruiting him as a wide receiver, and then they changed and flipped it up and went and said they wanted to recruit him as a corner. The biggest thing to me, he's out of Tampa, man. Tampa Catholic down there. We talk about Tampa kids all the time, man. We got to get back into Tampa. We need to get these Tampa kids. We said it with Keeley last year, and we lost Keeley. We had Isaiah Williams, and he ended up, flipping to A&M on signing day. These are kids you got to keep home, man. But once again, you stayed on it. Will Harris must have made a pretty good impression with the young man in the short time he got to talk to him before signing day. But obviously, there wasn't a whole lot of time to speak with him. But he enters the portal. Few days later, there were rumors he might take a visit to LSU. Florida shut that down, said, no, this is home. And, he's got pictures he's posting pictures on Twitter, a few days later of him as a little one in the swamp, man, with his Gator gear on. Once again, man, sometimes it just pays off to just keep recruiting. Don't say foul things. Don't be bitter when things don't go your way. And it pays off. Wes, man, how are you feeling about adding these two young men to the class of 24?
Well, Robinson was somebody that we thought we had already locked in and was going to be in the 24 class. So to get him back, and we chronicled this last week was we spoke about the nose tackle. I don't want to say this last week, over the last couple of years, about us needing true nose tackles and a guy to be in the inside, and we went up double back. So you talked about how it's okay and it's not always bad to be finishing second, and this is a case where we were second. You talked about his D-line coach leaving, going to LSU, and the thing is, it was universal, and that. In my opinion, Hurst, I feel like that's where I feel like Billy sometimes, if he had been 5 years earlier, maybe he would have a better shot than what our NIL and all that stuff and how that has changed football now, because we don't have the same D-line coach that was recruiting him either. The same thing with Grimsley, that we don't have the same DB coach. So these two kids are committing to a university that they want to be at, a university that they love. But they went to these other two places for other reasons. You spoke about Grimsley and him saying that he went to Alabama for stability. We talked about how our 2025 class may be slow as far as we getting recruits, because kids are unsure about what Billy is going to, is he going to be here. So you can understand the kid, especially going to Alabama, and Texas is one of those schools right now that's on the rise, and their pockets are deep, 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 deep. They're not hurting for money as well. So, but to me, that kid, Robinson, was more about relationships. because he left because of his D line coach leaving. But of course, we were second in his recruitment, and he came back home. So love to add talent. Love that kid. We talked about how his rating might not be what it was because of the position that he's played. You know, you don't see a lot of D tackles rated that high unless it is somebody like a Jalen Carter or somebody like that. But D tackles, it's hard to get those stats and those numbers up. But Texas wanted them, we wanted them, other schools want them. You talk about Grimsley, and we need DBs, and Coach Harris. People were getting upset with him about posting all these chess pieces and stuff. So that was a big move and a good get as well to get him in this DB class. I know people wanted Mincy, and I know you talked about it early in the year. Grimsley wanted to see us get maybe 19 wins and feel safe. His thing was stability. That was something that he harped on, something that you harped on to let our fans know about as well. Talking about, hey, if we get a certain number of wins, we probably get him in here because he's sure that Napier is going to be here in the future, and that's what he wanted. But he gets a chance to come back home after Nick leaves, and that's where came in second. I think we might have been first if things had worked out the way it should have worked out on the field.
I think we were first in his heart, but I think he
Yeah.
made a business decision. And you know what? Hey,
And you saw his message. His message said, "God puts everything for a reason." I'm big in faith. I'm big in faith as well. And he said, "God does everything, so I'm where I'm supposed to be at." And I love that message from him as well. So that's a kid
absolutely.
that's
I mean,
grounded.
hey,
Yeah,
we've said it over and over again. The results mattered.
yeah.
And I mean, hey, we like to sit here and sunshine pump things all day, but that's not what we're going to do.
That
Um,
Missouri.
at
And
the end of the
talk about that
day,
later.
in the recruiting game, results do matter, especially when you're talking about the Bamas of the world, the Texases of the
Yeah,
world. I mean, if Nick Saban doesn't retire, he's still at Bama.
yeah,
You can't. We're not going to lie about it. We didn't steal one from Bama at the last second because of some, keen recruiting move or
yeah,
some huge NIL deal. But the thing about Grimsley is his whole thing wasn't about NIL deals. His whole thing was business decision. I want to get developed. I want to play in the NFL. Okay.
He
Well,
made a mature decision. A
he
mature
made a
decision.
mature decision.
Yep,
And once again, big kudos and credit to Will Harris.
yep,
Um, whatever he sold him on, he made him feel like, look, we're going to take care of you. If you leave, what is Bama? And don't mistake it. DeBoer's a proven head coach. I mean, now he's lost a lot of kids from that team in a short while, but that's what happens in this day and age because of the poaching aspect of things now. As soon as Saban retired, I'm sure there were 50 plus kids on that team whose phones started blowing up. Don't even make a joke about it. Like, as soon as Saban announced he retired, I guarantee you some of these kids, Isaiah Bond and, all those guys, I bet that those phones were just going off with schools saying, hey, we got a spot for you. Come on down.
yep.
And look, I know we've talked to a few others there. Am I saying it's going to happen? No. Tonight's, this is we're recording on Wednesday night, and this is the last. They have to be in by tonight to be able to be in by Friday, and Friday is the drop dead, no going past deadline because they can take some online classes and miss, whatever they missed this week. But Friday is the hard, no making excuses, drop dead deadline of when guys can be added to be eligible for spring practice. So maybe some magic happens at the last hour tonight. I know they've talked to Zay Mincy a few times, trying to convince him. I know there's been dialogue with Keeley. But, hey, once again, does it go back to, well, you guys have had 3 straight losing seasons. We're still Bama over here. We've got resources. We've got a coach that's proven that he's that's been in the playoffs, who's coached in the championship game.
Yep. These kids are making life decisions, man. This is dictating the next.
Absolutely. Like, I'm sure
yeah.
we talked about Keon Keeley last year. That's a Tampa kid who loves Florida. All things even, in a perfect world, that kid would have been a Gator. Guess what? It's 2023 when he, now it's 2024, when he committed and signed, hey, now it's between the NIL and the transfer portal and all the stuff, and the Florida's record, it's like you said, it's a business decision.
This is
Texas,
where those wins, those non-wins, that Arkansas, Missouri, Florida
yeah,
State hurts
Arkansas,
us.
Missouri, Utah games got, like I said, if you'd won 2 of those 3, we're not having a lot of discussions
Yep,
we had in the last month and a half.
exactly.
Don't think we're having the Phil Simi conversation. I
Yep.
know we're not probably having the Isaiah Williams conversation. Darius Hayes, maybe. I mean, Darius Hayes just seemed like he was bag chasing at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
And Williams.
Morris Williams, hit or miss. Waller, that's a whole different conversation. That was a financial thing.
Yeah.
And that's all there was to it. Auburn dropped an enormous amount of money on him. I'm not going to say that, anywhere near the ballpark of what I've heard it was. It doesn't matter. It's over. It's done with. All you can do now is own to 25. And before we get to the one transfer guy, I do want to mention that we did get a crystal ball this week for a pretty dang good 2025 offensive lineman. Peyton Joseph, who's committing February 14th, who's currently ranked 122 in the composite. He's an interior offensive lineman, and that's pretty good for an interior offensive lineman. Usually that's reserved for, tackle, that and up are reserved for tackles. This is a young man out of Warner Robins, Georgia. God, I'm going to get it together one of these days, guys. I promise you. Plays for Houston County. That's big time football in Georgia. So this is a kid right now. He's being crystal balled to the Gators. I know Florida State's involved. I'm not sure how deeply involved Georgia is. You never really know with them because usually if they want a kid bad enough, especially in Georgia, But hey, if we're getting that kind of serious about offensive line this early in this class, man, first, color me shocked, but second, hey, if we get him, props to those boys. Now we'll see if there's who's still working here come the end of this month, going into February when these contracts expire, and see what happens then. But I want to talk about one more guy, and I'm sure most of y'all have heard about it now. Asa Turner, transfer from Washington, safety, 6'3", 200-pound kid. Hey, white DBs, Hey, right now, I know one thing. I ain't getting upset about any experienced help in the safety room. All right? I believe we all believe Castell has got one safety spot locked down, but I believe that other one is open for business. And, I mean, Castell still has to fight for his spot. If, late in the season, he didn't play as well. I think he hit the wall. I think that also might have something to do with former strength and conditioning coach, but we'll talk about that a different day. I think we've all had our opinions about him, and it wasn't positive. So we'll have to see. Maybe the team just ran out of gas and wasn't conditioned the way they needed to be. But back to Asa Turner, man. This is a guy that started multiple years at Washington. He got injured last season. He broke both hands. I mean, that's just crazy. So he started the first few games of the year, and then he was back. He played against Michigan in the championship game, and he played the game before that as well against Texas. So he did, he was back in time to play the important games. But he had 6 career interceptions, a solid tackler. I could not find his PFF grades for the couple of years that he played the majority of the seasons, even though I searched for them. But look, once again, man, this is a guy that was recruited once again by Will Harris before he went to be the defensive coordinator at Georgia Southern and then on to the Chargers. So he's very familiar with Will Harris. I am told, and so is Wes, that it is down to either us or him going into the NFL draft. He's not going back to Washington. So by the time he could be committed to the Gators by the time this show airs. So don't hit me in the comments with like, y'all are late. Asa Turner already committed or something like that if it does happen. But I expect as of now, 7 to 18 p.m. on Wednesday, that by Friday, Ace Turner is going to be a Gator. If it doesn't happen, and something dramatically turned. But hey, that'd be a welcome addition.
Yeah.
I mean, you would take an experienced safety in that room, wouldn't you?
I would love to have one to actually, to pair with Castell, and I'm all
And you
about
added
learning.
DJ Douglas as well. I mean,
Yeah.
you
My only concern is why isn't his previous coach recruiting in Alabama with everybody? They lost Douglas, they lost some other guys. That would be my only thing. Is why isn't he considering going to Alabama? But I'm all about experience. I'm all about help. I'm all about growth. I'm all about teaching. I'm all about seniority, and as far as these guys learning from guys that've done it before them. So if he can come in and help Castell and Torrance, I'm gonna love that too, because like you said, even though he was hurt throughout the year, he still played in the national championship game. So he was a key cog in that Washington team for the last couple of years, as far as their development and growth, to put them in the position where they were this year. So I'm gonna love that. He comes from a championship program.
yeah. Like I said, you add Douglas, if you add Turner, that's two experienced safeties to go with Castell, and then you've got the young, Bryce Thornton, who played significant snaps last year as a freshman. I mean, he didn't play as many, obviously, as Castell.
Yes, thank you for correcting me. I said Torrance, but I meant Torrance is
I
being
knew
ago,
what you
but I
meant.
meant Torrance. Yeah, I meant Thornton.
I just keep on sometimes, just like y'all do with me when I screw up and say coaches' names wrong and stuff like that. But because I'm getting older and my mind don't work as sharp as it used to. But like if you add this young man to, like I said, to Douglas, and then with those young guys in that room, and then I know you still got Moulton coming back, and I know nobody's getting super excited about that. But he was hurt last year too. Maybe it's a veteran body in the room. You've got to have some depth at that room, and that's really hurt us last year. There was no depth in that room. I mean, that's why you continued to have to run Mitchell out there and whatnot, because there was no experience in the room. So this gives you a little time to maybe get Thornton where you think he needs to be if he comes into spring camp and then in the fall camp, and he still doesn't seem to be at that level. But remember, Bryce Thornton is a kid that Bama committed as well. I mean, recruited as well. So this kid isn't a slouch. He can ball. It's just a matter of maturity and
Yeah,
growing
I
the
like him. He was a
system.
true freshman last year, so
And he played,
yeah,
and he
yeah,
played, and he made true freshman mistakes, just like
yeah.
Castell did, just like Jakeem Jackson did. I mean,
It was a
you've
roller
got some other
coaster.
young
Yeah,
guys too that can move back and forth between that room. I know at one time that Gates, Gates was considered for safety. So I mean, you'll have to see how it comes out in the wash when you get all these guys in there. But I really like where the safety room will be as opposed to the last few years coming into next year, if we can add Ace Turner on top of Douglas and what we've already got coming back. So let's talk about some bad news for just a minute before we get out of here on this fine evening. You probably heard, I know, I'll say that a lot, but it's going around right now about the Florida Gators being under investigation. And this investigation, of course, stems from the Jaden Rashada recruitment. Now, obviously, at this point in time, nobody knows exactly what's going to come of it, but I can only talk about what I've heard as far as, what they're looking at. One thing I know, and if you haven't noticed already, is that Hugh Hathcock is part of the investigation. And if you haven't noticed already, Hugh has been very distant from the program this year. You haven't seen any tweets from Hugh out there like you did last cycle when he was heavily involved. I believe this is the Gators trying to get out in front of this thing and be like, well, look, we knew that was a problem, so we went ahead and distanced ourselves from him. Because as you saw with the FSU investigation and the punishment that was handed down against FSU, one of their things was they must disassociate from a booster for a year. They didn't name the booster, But in our case, that booster obviously is going to be Hugh Hathcock. So there's a lot of people out there right now posting videos for shock treatment. One of them being our favorite FSU troll, TJ. If you don't know who TJ is, then consider yourself better off in life. But putting out shock headlines and videos saying is Billy Napier is going to be on the hot seat for this and whatnot. No, I don't believe that to be a case, because I believe in this. They're not going to really tie Billy to any of it. It is what it is. But also, like I said, the Gators have been very productive in getting out in front of it, taking care of things, being very open and forthcoming with the NCAA about anything that they may need to know, as far as, okay, what happened here, who was involved. We need to see paperwork for this, that, and the other thing. It's just one of those things, man. It happens. And I don't believe anybody really should be shocked by it. I believe we all kind of knew, especially after how public it was, that this was kind of going to be what at some point at the end of the tunnel, this was going to happen.
The fallout. Yeah, it was going to be a fallout from
Wes, what are your thoughts about it? Do you see anything really coming of this?
the fallout. I hope it. I hope it's no like playoff ban, especially with the playoff expanding to 12 years, and I'm hopeful that this season will turn out. Not saying that we make the playoff, we'll be one of the 12 teams, but I'm hoping for progress this year. The fans know they've been listening to our podcast. If you missed, I'm big on the 2025 year with DJ starting. I want to see progress this year. I want to see 8, 9, 10 wins this year, and DJ being the face of the program for the next two, meaning that he's that exceptional. He's leaving his junior year, so hopefully we don't have any of that. We may get docked a couple scholarships, or maybe Napier can't go on a visit here or there. Like the stuff that what Mullen got a couple years ago, where he couldn't go do a couple in home visits with some recruits. So maybe something small like that. But I think it's button up where, like you said, that the team has been, the university has been cooperative with the NCAA, and I don't think it will be anything big where we get the death penalty like SMU some a couple years, not couple years, but some decades ago. But
yeah, I was gonna say that's when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, it won't be that. I think it may be some, where they may dock us a couple scholarships, maybe, and some home visit things that the coach is not able to do, something like that. Something. I count those things as major, but because you want your head coach in the living rooms of kids, but I think it may be something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a list of things. I'm sure there will be a few scholarships cut, which, look, if you go back to some of the things we've been talking about recently about the way that maybe we should be handling rosters now with the NIL thing, I don't personally think losing 3 to 5 scholarships is a big deal going forward, because we all know we got, I mean, pardon my, take here, but 3 to 5 kids that aren't going to see the field at the University of Florida at any given time anyway. So, I mean, does it suck for them? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's a hard conversation to have, to go into, to look at these 3 to 5 kids and say, well, look, because we did this, now you're not on scholarship at the University of Florida. You're the kid that we're going to take the scholarship away from. And I mean, I'm sure there's ways around it. Kind of like Texas and Ole Miss have figured out about dealing with NIL and the roster limitations. If you give a kid enough money, he can pay his own way in school, and and then he doesn't need to be on scholarship. You just give him a PWO status, and give him enough NIL money, and then you'll free up another roster spot. So, hey, there's all kinds of cheating going on, and a whole lot of manipulation of the rules that are out there right now. So, look, you got involved with people that screwed up, and you have to pay the consequences. It's just what it is. Hopefully it won't be that bad. I don't feel like it will be anything that makes anything any worse than it is right now. That's for sure. I mean, what are we? You're gonna forfeit the rest of our wins from last year? I
Yeah.
mean, what
Nah,
what are you gonna do to us? Like like Rocky said, sue me for what? What are you gonna take from us? You ain't. We ain't losing
they're gonna
nothing.
vacate our bowl wins for the last 2 years.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh. That's clever. Yeah, we didn't that game against Oregon State never happened.
Yeah,
Take
we
that,
love that. Yeah, we love
troll.
that.
So look, guys, don't buy into any reports you see online about people saying, "Oh, it looks like Billy Napier might get fired from this," unless you see it from an official report like Bruce Feldman, or someone like that.
Or Pete,
You know, huh?
Brent McMurphy, Pete
Yeah,
Thamel.
those guys, the guys
Yeah,
that cover college football 365 days a year, don't pay it no mind. That's people speculating and putting shock headlines out to get your engagements because that's the name of the game. Um, we all play that game in this because that's how you get more views, more clicks, more likes, all that stuff. But we're also going to be honest about it. And we're not, FSU got punished and we didn't do a video the next day saying, oh, Mike Norvell might be on the hot seat because he cheated. Get out of here with that ish. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, find something better to do. As another famous Gator podcaster says, go touch grass. But anyway, guys, that's really going to be it for this week, man. Hopefully we get some good news before Friday. If we don't, then hey, this is what we got. We'll see you in spring practice with these young men. I know that it looks like they're having a good time. I'm not trying to get too hyped or bought into to the videos they're putting out of these guys out there doing workouts and stuff like that, but it sure looks like the new strength and conditioning coach has got those boys working.
yep.
So I'm excited about that, man. We'll talk to Justice about that next week too. How the new strength and conditioning guy compares to the former and see what his reaction is. He may not be able to answer it for us, but we'll see one way or another what he's got to say. But man, that's going to do it for this week's episode, guys. Thanks as always for tuning in. Thanks for supporting us as creators. Like CJ always says, I'll have to cover all CJ's parts. Damn it, CJ.
But Hirsch, before we go though, who you got this weekend? The NFL. We're about to have. After this weekend, we're gonna have a bye week, and then the Super Bowl. Who you got this weekend? The AFC.
49ers, Ravens.
49ers, Ravens.
40. I think Chiefs' luck's about to run out. I think this is Lamar's year, man. This is a different looking Lamar. He looks like he is on an absolute mission, and I hope he shuts everybody that continues to criticize him down.
Yeah, and I really believe in that defense. We
And that's the thing. Two best defenses in the league. It ain't even a question.
And I saw not Baltimore. I saw Buffalo run on Kansas City last week. Baltimore is going to be able to run on Kansas City this week with Justice Hill and
with just Lamar.
Yeah, but his ability.
I got you,
yeah.
But I'm just saying. And guess what? Justin Tucker ain't missing no kicks.
Nah.
I probably just jinxed him, but hey.
Kansas City has a good kicker too, and then
now look.
They have that all-world punter that they rarely use. Townsend.
With
Florida
the beautiful
Gator.
hair. Now look, on the other side, I'm not gonna be upset if the Lions win that football game.
Nah.
Man, I love that. Every time I see Eminem at the game and he's all hyped up, I mean that's good for that city.
Look, Calvin Johnson and Barry Sanders, I love it, man.
After Michigan winning the national title, and now Detroit possibly going to Super Bowl.
Might be
the year. Man. Sometimes it just rolls like that. Unfortunately, I had to live,
And they're very, very talented, especially on offense. Defense,
they're a well-coached ball team.
Their defense scares me, but their offense is very good. I'm about to get their, head coach, Johnson. Hopefully, he doesn't go to you.
Their head coach. Their offensive
offensive coordinator. Yeah, Johnson.
We're interviewing their defensive coordinator. Tune in to Pod of the People, man, and we're going to talk about who we want as our head football coach. But until then, guys, I'm about to throw it to Wes, man. Thank you for all tuning in and doing what you do every week and your interactions with us, man. Be sure, like it says on the ticker down below, guys, follow us on Twitter at RespectOurDCN and check out our Facebook group. You can join our Facebook group and then get into our recruiting chat that we have, man. Great group of guys in that chat, man. No disagreements, no arguments. Grown men talking like grown men to each other. Football chats. Never gets out of hand. If it does, if somebody comes in and acts a fool, they're gone. We just get rid of it. We don't do it, man. We respect each other and have a great time because that's what it is, man. Respect our decision and our opinion as well. And if you can't do that, man, what are we doing? Be good to each other, man. That's all it's about. Take us home, Wes.
Yeah, Hirsch talked about it at the beginning. We're gonna have somebody from our I don't want to say collective, but Florida Victorious on tomorrow.
Nate Barbera.
Yeah, that'll air Friday. So check Hirsch's video, not video. Check his interview
Interview.
out
Yeah.
with him, the CEO, and you questions that you may have. Matter of fact, in this podcast that you'll see tomorrow, which is today, for some of you who watch it today, which is Thursday, you'll see the comments. If you have any questions, concerns about that, Hersch will see them and he'll maybe ask some of the questions that he doesn't already have in his notebook to ask him tomorrow
My
for the
notebook.
interview. So ask those questions. Hopefully you guys are watching tonight. If you do it tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon before he does the interview, put those in there so that you can have some concerns, questions that you have about what are we doing and how are we doing it and
Absolutely.
how we can help our athletes out wherever sports, not just football. That is for all sports that is at Florida. So if you have any of those questions and concerns, please do leave those in the comments today or tonight, and make sure you like, subscribe, as Hirsch said, and as always, go Gators.
Go Gators, baby. Thank you all. See you next week.